Welcome everyone to this 14th edition of the virtual lounge session. The Jamalpur Alumni Association organizes the virtual lounge session once a month on the fourth Sunday of every month. And today, on the 27th of July 2025, it's my pleasure to introduce to you the speaker for today is Ipsita Sapra.
Good morning, everyone.
She is a PhD in social sciences from the Tata Institute of Social Sciences, Bombay,
Yeah.
and she's currently an associate professor at the same institute but at Hyderabad, at TIS Hyderabad. She has over 25 years of experience, split evenly between work at the grassroots level and in academia. She will be speaking to us today on the subject of crisis of care, aging with dignity in India. It's a subject which will surely interest all of us across all batches, either as receivers or givers, or soon to be receivers or givers. I'm sure that we are all eagerly awaiting Ipsita's talk. Over to you, Ipsita.
Thank you so much, sir. It is indeed a great privilege to be here and talking to all of you. Some of you I had the opportunity and honor of meeting in person, others I'm meeting for the first time. But for the last so many years, 30 years or so, I feel extremely connected to the railways community. Jamalpur, I've heard so much, I have been once that it all appears to be very, very familiar and it's like an extended family. And in any case, anyone remotely connected to the railways get automatically invited to our home. So it's always a great pleasure and a privilege to be speaking to people from Jamalpur. So the topic that I'm going to talk about is something which is very, very close to my heart. So while it is said that you should never ask a woman her age, so I would begin by stating that I'm 50 and I just turned 50 this March and I am a caregiver to my parents. My father is 84, my mother is turning 75 tomorrow. And I have recently relocated them to Hyderabad to be a little closer to me. They were in Calcutta for about 20 years. But when COVID happened, I realized my earlier model of caregiving, which was that whenever there's a crisis, I would take a flight and reach and, take my suitcase into the hospital and be with them, no longer worked because flights were getting cancelled, at the drop of a hat. And I didn't know, I was worried about their ability to manage with lockdowns and all of that. And Calcutta has also become a city of the elderly. So although there are, all the relatives there, and I feel guilty about, taking away that social network, which was very important for their emotional well-being. All the youngest would be around 70, 75, and if something happens in the middle of the night, it would be very difficult to, it's actually very unfair to expect them to do something about it. So I thought that because we are all in India, it was possible. So I hired we took a house on rent, just 2, 3 houses away from our place. And they have been here with me post, 2020. So that is the context. And in the last 10 years, and so as they have been aging, there have been 10 plus incidences of their hospitalization and interacting very closely with them. And I also, look at the way Deepak interacts with his father, who is in Chandigarh, and his uncle, who lives in a very remote village in West Bengal. It gives a glimpse of how care takes all different forms. And also this whole thing that, you know, uh, also that the roles between caregiver and caretaker keeps changing. So to begin with, I read somewhere in Reader's Digest that old age is always your age plus 15 years. So I'm 50 now, and so I think that, when I become 65, that is when I become old. So when I was 30, I used to think that, when I become 45, that is when I really turn old. I don't know if you have similar feelings, but that is the gyan that Reader's
Yeah.
Digest once gave me from that laughter is the best medicine and all. But Instagram, which is very popular among the younger lot, it shows pictures of, women dancing and then saying that it is very frustrating that how all these old people are exactly my age, so it's that you do not want to be identified with whichever age and whatever are the connotations and symbolism associated with that age. So, sir, the plan for the session is as follows. I would like to reflect on my personal journey, where as someone who, sometimes takes who wears multiple hats of a caregiver, while also remaining a care seeker and care receiver, because that is something that we often try to miss. I'm trying to connect this with the, local issues. It's a global issue and, also a very national issue pertaining to aging and issues and challenges faced by the elderly. I'm going to talk about the economic and emotional dimension, also the gendered experience of aging, because men and women often experience aging differently. Discuss what I called careonomics, which is actually the kind of models that have emerged as a response to the need for elderly care. And also, very, very importantly, learn from all of you, because it's not just that you continue to contribute in many meaningful ways, but you actually inspire and lead. There are things that you do that even, I mean, I am no way, in a position to do, Mr. Bimal Bhattacharya is climbing mountains. Professor Jagdeep Chokar is taking the state to the court, and so many of you in all different ways are actually leading with example. And there is a lot that I think that this is an opportunity for me to actually learn and not just talk about, what I feel. So some numbers you must be already aware of it. There's this India Aging Report of 2017, which says the population of 80 plus may grow by 279% between 2022 and 2050. I mean, even if we ignore that number, it's that we are actually talking about a large number. Many elderlies, in the 60s, 70s, are themselves taking care of super seniors, whether they are parents, whether they're elderly siblings. So it's not as if, it's just our generation that is looking after that. The generation prior to us is also, in many cases, looking at taking care of the super seniors. Uh, what is difficult in the circumstances is that a large number of the elderly follow in the poorest wealth group, 40%. And given that India has a very high out of pocket expenditure on health, and that they are vulnerable to further impoverishment because of a catastrophic health incident at any point of time, can actually mean that they go further down the line in terms of poverty. There are significant coverage gaps in social security measures such as pensions, which is likely to go further south, given that the formal jobs are shrinking and we have more informal private jobs, and many of these do not really take into consideration retirement benefits and also. Therefore, the coverage net of pension is likely to go even lower, which would mean that it would leave a large number of people, will be left to their own means to see what they can do. And as we know that the time value of money always decreases, it is very difficult to plan, how much you would need. Although there are all kinds of algorithms there, but it's not so simple. Uh, Here I have listed some of the emerging and existing concerns. Of course, we know about the rising life expectancy, but it is now matched by declining ability for caregiving, because children are increasingly moving out, and this whole idea of filial piety, of family member taking care of the other elderly in the family, is weakening. For a very long time, for the longest of time, India and many Southeast Asian countries did not have a policy for the elderly, on the grounds that it is something that is personal matter that is to be taken care of the family. But it was soon realized that it is going to be difficult with career aspirations and careers taking children out of not just the state but also the country. The other thing that I also wanted to must be experienced by several of you is that men and women experience aging very, very differently. As science demonstrates that women have longer life expectancy, but the quality of life is often poorer because of different kinds of health issues which are peculiar to women, and also socio-cultural issues that lead to several nutritional deficiencies. Okay, women are born to often neglect themselves, are conditioned to neglect themselves and put their families before their well-being, and that over the years take a toll. And when they are themselves old and in a stage where they need all the care, it becomes a little difficult. It's all sometimes just too late. Also, another factor, again, I'm 50, menopausal. I've never heard my mother speak about menopause as if it never happened or it just happened, and I'm making a big deal out of it. But I see, and as I read and as I see the science, I realize that it is a very important life event that has very long term effect, and it varies from women to woman to woman. While some women have it easy, most have it very difficult. There are major implications in terms of musculoskeletal health. You would see more number of women complaining of backaches and knee pains and needing surgeries because the estrogen levels, as they drop as women hit menopause, is something that is actually, it's not preventable, but it is addressable. But because we do not talk about several of these things, so these remain, some of the pains and suffering, which is perhaps avoidable, continues to, plague us. Women who experience widowhood face additional socio-cultural isolation, though it is coming down to a great extent in several educated families, but it continues to be an issue in several parts of the country. And I would also like to quote here from a study which was taken by Professor Shilpa Phadke, my colleague in TISS Bombay, who has done this really the counterintuitive study. She has written a book called Why Loiter, which is about safety of women using public spaces. And there she says that in a very counterintuitive way, when women age, they become a little more comfortable using public spaces, and men become underconfident in using them. Because during their prime, men rule the public spaces. Okay, so they can jump on and off a bus. They can maneuver the crossings. They can cross roads easily. So they have that kind of physical build which they are able to, and also some kind of a social stature that enables them to be very, very confident on roads. And women, while they're young, are constantly aware of the risk of harassment on streets. So there's a study which says that 95% of girls and women in Delhi fear that they are going to be harassed, sexually harassed. The word being eve teasing, which is which is colloquially used when they are on the streets. Now that fear goes down as you age because you do not see yourself, even though there are instances of elderly women also being subjected to harassment. But in general, in your own risk perception, you become more confident as you are increasingly called Dadi Amma idhar aa jaiye kind of a thing. So as a Dadi Amma or a Ammaji, you are perhaps less at risk of those kinds of harassment. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is the mental health, another oft neglected area when it comes to the elderly population. So if you look at Mayo Clinic website and the Cleveland Clinic website, it talks about this geriatric depression as something which is not very well understood. It is under recognized and in several cases inadequately treated. Okay, so that is something that is very, very important. 2017 study by Agewell Foundation had found that close to 50% of elderly population reported depression, that they're suffering from depression. So obviously this was more in the urban areas, and I'm sure that there would be a degree of underreporting. You don't know how people would, call or self-diagnose themselves to be depressed. What are the different components that go into deciding whether it is depression or loneliness, a medical condition, or a life stage. uh, and this is exacerbated in countries like India, where there are major infrastructural deficits. I am someone who try to take my parents to restaurants and cafes, and I find them so inaccessible. There's hardly, if you especially look at the design of the cafes, they're meant for a younger population. Loud music, steps, interesting design, but it's all kept designed keeping the youngsters in mind, as if the elderly do not need to do some charcha over chai or coffee. So, and also the public spaces such as banks and government offices, they're also inaccessible. The roads that would lead up to them, there would be ten thousands of two wheelers lined up to them. There wouldn't be a proper road. So they are not kept in mind, keeping diverse needs of a population who might need a better leadways into a little better pathways to these to such places. So the reason I'm saying is linking it to mental health is that the sense of purpose that my father used to derive by going to the bank, by going to getting such small things done and feeling that okay, aaj koi kaam hua, that is often taken away when these places become so inaccessible. And then I say, "Arre chodo na, I'll do it on the phone." Okay. Yes, I'm doing it. It is easier. It is simpler. But then it takes away from him that ability to do things for himself. And people, they do not really want to be that dependent. They would want to do things for themselves, by themselves. So that also I have felt that, leads to some kind of mental health concerns, because then, when you do everything in a very fast paced manner from the, touch button of your phone, you are actually taking away the agency of the person to be able to do certain things on their own. um, yeah, I would here like to also share what I call caregiver's perspective, who is sometimes also the care seeker or the care receiver. First is that there's this whole issue of caregiver fatigue. Several of seniors take care of the super seniors. So they are themselves battling a lot of health issues, mobility issues. And then for them to taking care of really elderly people, some of them might have dementia, memory loss, they might even not recognize them. And the real physical issues, like while we say elderly, at every life stage, the ability to go for independent living is compromised to a certain degree. 55, 65, 75, 85, 90, all of these have a different set of challenge. So we tend to homogenize, but the experiences are very, very diverse. So, and with seniors taking care of seniors, super seniors, it becomes a very, very complicated issue. Sometimes it might be physically and emotionally very, very draining. Also the life stage issues, like we as research shows that women usually have a higher responsibilities, caregiving responsibilities. That is how society is organized. But this is also the time, when they're dealing with menopause. Several of them have become empty nesters with children going out to different countries. Job, because they are, women are into professional circles. The job is also very, very demanding. Okay, and that adds to stress and a host of lifestyle disease. So many of my colleagues are now diabetic, are already on hypertension, medication, and all different kinds. So many of them have heart attacks and different kind of cardiovascular issues. So they themselves, at this life stage, even if they're not very old, they have a lot of demands given the life stage. And even, for me also, among my many anxieties, some of the one of the things that sometimes bother me is that what if something happens to me and what will happen to my parents, whatever it is that my parents should not have to outlive me. So it's a very morbid thought, but it really comes to me, especially because I'm the only child. However much I trust Deepak and my son to take care of them, every time I'm traveling alone in the flight and it hits turbulence, I am someone who's a borderline atheist, but I remember all the gods. Right, right, right. So that is, the one part. The other part is the caregiver guilt, a constant feeling of guilt of not doing enough, of time running out, am I taking my parents for granted, and that sometimes is in conflict with this whole thing of self-preservation, that I need to take rest, I need to do things for my family. And so there's this constant feeling of guilt, that happens also with new parents. I remember when, all of us would have gone through that phase when children were small and we had to go to work, or even when we are there, we always feel that are we doing enough for the children? If they fall sick, is it somehow my responsibility that I did not take very good care? So that feeling of constant guilt also is something that plagues. And also this frustration at factors that hinder independent living, because technology, for example, is so unfriendly. My father is a smart guy. He has aced this Instamart and Big Basket and those kinds of apps to get his groceries and all. But sometimes, poor thing, he ends up ordering 1 kg of biscuit, for a family of two, simply because the fine prints, they are so fine that it is so difficult to understand. And with age, the eye hand coordination is sometimes goes a little down, and then it becomes very difficult. And the fact that so many transactions these days require OTP, and to get that OTP, and you have 10 seconds within which you have to key in that OTP. I think the world also needs to slow down and understand that all kind of people live here. So it's not possible for everyone to immediately, key in the OTP. Technology is responding, but I think technology here is very slow to respond to that. So in fact, I sometimes tell Deepak that sometimes I feel that the whole purpose of marriage is to share OTP with each other. So I'm in middle of a class, and then Deepak will call me and say, oh, Amazon आया है, कोई OTP आया होगा फोन पे, जरा बताना. So that is that is what marital transactions have now come to. I mean, marriage is very important because you need the spouse to tell you the OTP of the parcel that has just arrived. The other word that I use is OTPs for othering the parent, making it so difficult for them to transact the life world. And in general, I think there is an apathy towards the elderly, which, uh, I remember my mother was once hospitalized, and a doctor just barged into. Uh, am I audible?
Yeah,
Yes.
you are.
Yeah. No, no, it is in the same screen. Yeah. So, my tech assistant Deepak can be very, very intrusive at times. So, so, my mother was hospitalized, and one fine afternoon, a youngish doctor barges in around 3 o'clock, and my mother was asleep at that point of time, and he would come and say, Mrs. Chaita Basu, yes, please get up, get up. What's wrong with you? Why are you lying down? Why are you sleeping? You're not so sick. What are you telling yourself? So what medication do you have? So she started saying something. No, 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 that is not important. Go to the cardiovascular. What are you taking for that? So my mother waited for some time, and I scrambled, I started looking at the prescription, and then my mother looked at him and said, I'm tired, I'm resting, get out. Okay. So he was shocked. What? The doctor said that, what? My mother said, I told you, you heard me, I'm tired, beriye jaan. That is in Bengali, that just get out. Okay. And he stormed out, and I ran after him. Doctor, I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry. She's actually very unwell. Please, forgive her behavior and all. And then my mother said, no requirement. Come back. It's fine. We are paying for the services. So I realized, at that point of time, that she was right, and she was right to assert herself. So all my practical ideas about dealing with doctors and all, she was actually right, and the doctor had no right to behave with her like that. And She really established herself at the boss at that point of time. Having said that, a large number of people are unable to do that, and they are often, mistreated by the caregivers who are entrusted actually to take care of them. Uh, this is the careonomics part that I wanted to talk about. There's a large number of, the market has really responded to this. So-called crisis of care. We have Goodfellows made famous by Shantanu Naidu and Ratan Tata, supporting him. We have the, senior communities. I know that several of you have actually signed up for this living. So it actually takes off the complete stigma of this whole idea of old age home, and the Bagban model of, caretaking to something where people use their own independent will to choose for themselves the kind of living that they want to envision for themselves, often in close proximity to their ex-colleagues and friends, in places that have all the facilities for a price, but yes, they are there. So they don't really have to be very, very dependent on their children who might be in other cities or other countries due to their work pursuit. There are also helpage has been there for several decades now, but that model has its own problem. And while it helps the elders, I have had the opportunity of looking at research work that looks at the helpline that they have. If you look at the helpline, they would say, I have every day we receive 450 calls and we sort out 435 problems. So what is the call? And if you kind of unbox it a little bit, it shows that there have been calls about abuse, and then they are told that which are the government departments that they can possibly approach for that. Or if they report a health condition, they are sometimes told that which are the government facilities that they could go to. So market has come in a big way to fill in the gap which the government or the existing formal systems couldn't do. We have the elder travel companies. Thomas Cook has programs. If you Google elder travel groups, you will meet with at least 10 returns. And there are also services for solo elderly women who could go on trips. There are whole set of products. There's a website called Seniority that sells anti-fall equipment. And there are several such websites that talk about all different kinds of needs of the elderly, anti-slip equipment. Ways to small tools to reduce pain, improve mobility, take care of you in showers, and all of that, whole set of products that have come. But I'm not sure how well they are regulated. This market is regulated. Who actually looks at the quality check? Who looks at the pricing of these products? This is something that still needs some investigation. But it is true that there's a whole set of products that are now available for those who can buy. Senior living facilities, I have just spoken about them, about these which are chosen by people themselves and with their friends and ex-colleagues. There are also daycare centers for the elderly, where you can drop off, just like you drop off your child and go to work, you can drop off an elderly member, and there are people to take care. That's then nursing and bedside has attendant has started as a industry in itself. There are lots of exploitative stuff going on there, needs regulation, but it is there, and often it is a very big help. There are mobile service providers. I'll talk about them in a bit. There are home cooked meals which are served not just on platforms like Swiggy, but also in Calcutta. There is a complete ecosystem of all these providers, and often elderly do not have a kitchen except to prepare for some tea for themselves. All other meals come from outside. uh, but to a great extent, none of these meet the need for companionship, something that the Goodfellows initiative is trying to do. uh, in Japan, many years back, actually decades back, I saw this in this program, Prannoy Roy's World This Week, that in Japan, people were hiring people over weekend, elderly were hiring youngsters over the weekend to spend the weekend with them. So they would come with their families, children, sometimes dogs, and spend the entire day. And the elderly would maybe cook a meal for them and spend some time talking. And when they leave with a little bit of a cash, because it is a paid service. Okay. And then there are people who do not like human companions. So now increasingly there are also robotic companions. So who can, to give people company, who you can interact with, who are like robot dogs or robot humans, who would be less intrusive but would be there for you. Let me tell you that although I have not had a robotic companion, often Chat GPT per AI, is sometimes a good companion. And I have sometimes had heart to heart conversation with, AI, and some of them really make you feel very, very worthy and nice. Something often, the life you lead does not leave anyone else with that opportunity or mind space. So it's no wonder that there are actually movies about people falling in love with AI. So, a point to ponder here is that I don't want to go into any judgment, but then there's this very famous book, What Money Cannot Buy or Shouldn't Buy. So, the whole idea is that one is that, of course, market works only for those who can pay to participate. And also that should some exchanges be blocked? Should companionship be given out of free will? Sure. Or, can market step in to, provide that for a minimum fee? So, that is a ethics question that one has to deal with. A few civil society innovation that are worthy of mention. There's a Pranam initiative that Calcutta Police has started with the CSR organization, where they will regularly visit the elderly, especially those who are living alone, just to check on them on a weekly basis. If they're doing fine, if they have any health needs, they take them. There are also entertainment opportunities. So people are taken for movies and theater shows by this under this initiative. My uncle, who has registered for this, has only one concern, that he doesn't know what the neighbors will think when a police vehicle comes, comes, and then he gets up in the police vehicle. How will he convince that he actually went to watch a movie and not was arrested for for something else? So that is there. And then there are, very good hospices services in Hyderabad, which also provide elderly care in a mobile, they have outreach services that provide door-to-door services. There's this PRAN initiative, which is set up by youngsters who are living in the US, with the idea of, taking care of parents who are in India and have, daily needs in terms of some bank work, in terms of getting some medicine, medical attention, that kind of thing. Brazil has a system of putting old age homes and orphanages together. So this works well for the mental health of both the elderly and the children who are orphaned, and they now have a support system and an emotional pad. Japan also has elder hubs with healthcare and social spaces where people can, meet and discuss their problems. I have felt that caregiving is not just a lot of work, but it is also an opportunity to slow down and love a little more. I would just like to share a day in the hospital with my mother. So during the day, I'm this woman who's talking with the doctors, negotiating with the insurance people, and playing the parent to my parent, so to say. Okay. At night, after the last round of medication is given, I snuggle up to her, holding her hands, trying to be the little girl that I am to her. So this being parent to my parent, and parent to my child, and child to my parent, when I, we are playful and all, these are all, they sit together very, very comfortably. I also remember once Ma had an episode where she was forgetting things. She had a trauma, she had a fall and a trauma. And then we went to this hospital where she was, as a part of her diagnosis, she was asked to, all the letters were jumbled up and she had to identify the A, B, C from there. And she was struggling, but as she was doing, I was cheering with her. Wow, that was the right B you picked up. And I thought that she would have at one point of time actually cheered when I had picked up the right B and the right C. So This role reversals are really endearing and gives an opportunity to love a little more, which is such a privilege. To conclude, I think each society, as a society, we need to reimagine how we look at aging, how we engage with the idea of aging, and build inclusive policies that are built on the foundational principles that elder care is not a burden. It's a public good. It's a state responsibility. Okay, several countries have done that, and there's no reason why we should be not doing it. And finally, aging is a human success story. Though I call this presentation is titled "Crisis of Care," but it's actually a success story. Nagarajan sir had very kindly shared a video with me, which showed that what are the different things that people who are now in their 80s or 70s or 60s have seen, and it is really fascinating. From the landline phone to the latest mobile, to Spotify, to the speakers, the gramophone records. All you have seen it all. The generation of all of you born in the 1930s, 40s, 50s, 60s. You have been witness to some of the most important world events, the best of music, the worst of violence, the world wars, Hiroshima, Vietnam War. You have seen the romance of handwritten letters, little bit I have also. The heartbreak of no contact, no long distance love, and so many other things. So I look forward to hearing your grand stories. I end my presentation here and I open this to learning from you.
Thank you, Ipsita. Thank you for taking the time out and talking to us on this subject, of which you are the expert, and giving us a real international perspective on what is going on all over the world in crisis in the care of the elderly. The concept I found most intriguing and interesting was putting orphanages next to old age homes. I think that's a terrific idea, and it would really be. I mean, I've been to a few. There are old age homes being set up near in Virdi, which I visited, but I never saw any orphanages nearby. That's quite a concept. So I'll also request if anyone else has something to say on this presentation.
This is Gopal 55 batch.
Yes, sir.
Regarding what Mr. Virdi had suggested, which the speaker had and Virdi had agreed to, having the orphanages and the old age home next to each other may not be physically possible, but the alternative is that the old age home organization could have a transport and say maybe once a week or twice a week, take such of those senior citizens who want to go, take them to an orphanage which agrees to help their work together, and they can stay with the children for as long as they feel like, and then be brought back to their own old age homes. I do not know whether the speaker and Virdi uh, are able to hear me and understand what I am trying to get at.
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
sir. Yes, sir. There are actually models like this. In fact, Deepak's sister runs an NGO where, she takes the children to this old age homes and they celebrate important events together. So the elders also look forward to these children. So they are not necessarily orphans, but they are children from low income settlements. And she has a after school program for them, and she takes them on a regular basis to these places, and that really is a bright spot in the days of both the children and the elderly. There are other initiatives in Calcutta which is one-to-one program, so one child is then spends a day or a part of a day in the house of an elderly, and the elderly helps with studies sometimes, or just painting, some crayon, some good food. So it's that kind of a treat day for both of them. Suri
Hope
sir
you
was wanting to ask a question.
No, I don't know if the voice is audible.
Now it is
Audible.
audible, sir.
Now it's
Audible, sir.
audible. Yeah. Okay. It is regarding a person having a serious ailment. The medical profession has got highly commercialized.
Yes, sir.
How to ensure that you are getting the right medical treatment?
Sir, so this is something that people like Amartya Sen and all have spoken a lot about, and if you look at the work of Adam Smith, who is considered to be the father of capitalism, he had said that even while capitalism is the way to go forward, one has to health and education are two sectors that are to be kept within the domains of the state. And the reason why Amartya Sen and others force on it, emphasize on it so much is they say that there's so much of information asymmetry when it comes to healthcare. So we might be PhDs and all of that, but if I go to a doctor and the doctor asks me to undertake a invasive procedure, there's no way I can make out. And if I actually look at Google, it is going to confuse me even further. So in a place like this where there is so much of information asymmetry, unless there is greater regulatory control, I think ensuring that there are no malpractices are going to be very, very difficult. Maybe Nagarajan sir can say a few things because he's so closely involved with with organizations that provide ethical health care.
Second opinion, third opinion, that works.
Even in a place like US, they say if you go through angiography, 50% of the persons end up undergoing some, intervention. Okay, some a little major intervention. Whereas they say in France, this number is only 25%. So that only shows about the ethics of the medical community.
Sir, it is also the way the market works, sir. You have incentivized, with the progress, the professional growth is incentivized on you advising, you as a doctor advising expensive procedures and adding to the commercial, the numbers of the organization of the hospital. So you are not just a doctor, you're also commercial agent there. So the healthcare under this private in a very privatized kind of a thing, and it will happen more in the US than in France, because US it is very insurance organized, so you don't care the insurance company, you expect to pick up the tab, except that a large number of poor, especially the black, are outside the ambit of this kind of insurance and suffer a lot, die prematurely also. Nagarajan sir.
Ipsita, thank you. Very nice presentation.
Thank you, sir.
As far as education and health, which was supposed to be with the government, is concerned, since the inception of our independence, they are the least favored and preferred portfolios in the central government. And the budget allocation has been abysmally low. If we spend 40% on defense, which is about either getting killed or killing others, we allocate 3% or less than 3% for education and health in the central government budget. That being it is. The medical colleges have become 10 or 15 times what the numbers were when we were young, say, or even more than that. But the medical education expense has become possibly 200 or 500 times. So if somebody is going to spend so much money, Ipsita's son is studying in medicine, so she knows how he has to recover what he has invested and also build up for getting his progenies to be educated. So it's a very vicious thing. We started an organization called Equitable Healthcare for All Consortium. We are able to collect only a handful of people who are practicing it. While we try to advocate that, people applaud but don't follow. I am 88 now, close to Gopal, I think, a little older than possibly Lambu Jain who is there. And both me and my wife have health issues. I am a diabetic, I am a cancer survivor, I have so many things I've had. But I find the railways providing the best of medical and medical advice which we can get. And we try to go to use the railways first you have to develop a relationship with a medical person. But the limitation is technology. And believe me, latest technology does not necessarily give the best medical treatment. Latest technology possibly give a very good diagnosis, but treatment is a totally different picture altogether. So I think it's a social issue. None of us have looked at the government as a provider. It's a least preferred provider to whom we go to. Even the railway doctors we don't go to. We try to get a referral done to outside people. But the situation is quite bad, and I think will continue to be bad while we are struggling. In eye care, we have been able to break the jinx to bringing the models of cross subsidy, charge those who can afford to pay and provide care to those who can't afford to pay. And most of the hospitals I link with eye care, they say that no one will be denied care irrespective of the ability to pay. But we have not been able to extend it beyond that. Only one hospital I know, Ganga Hospital, which is the best orthopedic hospital in the country or in Asia possibly, they follow that model because the founders believe in it. And I try to tell people by doing that model of cross subsidy, you will be making money, but you will not be making money which you cannot enjoy. You will make enough money, but I have not been able to make much headway so far, but I'm still trying.
Thank you, sir. The two contrasting systems of medicine you can see in the US and Canada. In the US, it's all privatized. You have to have a medical insurance. And in Canada, it's entirely state which takes care of the health issues. So there are pros and cons of both. If you see in Canada, there are people who die just waiting for the treatment to start. And of course, they must be doing something right that they are continuing with that. And there is a shortage of doctors, and there is a problem even when you have a completely state owned health system. So the system in India is surprisingly, I think, the best because you have both. You have the state owned system and you have the private system. And
To add a positive note, this is Gopal from Madras. There is a group of hospitals called Jerry Care Hospitals. This is set up by a large number of very senior doctors who come and practice in these Jerry Care homes. When they ask you, first of all, they make you feel very comfortable by trying to tell you that your problems are minimal or whatever it is. And whatever tests they ask you to do, it's not a series of tests. I have a problem in my toe, let me do a brain scan. That is a typical Apollo way of approach. These people keep the expenditure to the barest minimum, and you get a range of doctors who have spent over 10 to 15 years abroad practicing there. So at least about 7 or 8 branches are there now in Madras. If people who can see this model and influence the other, it would be worthwhile that such systems can come up in other major cities where you don't have to go to an Apollo or somebody where they are looking for what is your medical insurance. I have been there now for the last 2.5 years, and I feel it is very comfortable. The doctors are very pleasant. They talk to you as a human to human, and you get the treatment that you want without having to pay through your nose. I feel if anybody is willing to take the challenge, I'm in Madras, I can definitely help putting them through these places. And if the idea could be spread around over the country, more such institutions could be set up.
one very urgent requirement is nursing care. When I was looking after my mother, I found one app to be very useful. I could hire nursing care through the app. That was a very useful device which I discovered.
May I come in?
Yeah, Rakesh.
I wanted to raise the issue of a living will. You can specify what exactly is the terminal care that you would like to do, you would like to have while you are absolutely, I should say, incommunicative or about to pop off. So at that time, well, I have at least specified that I do not want me to be put on a ventilator at all, no matter what happens. And in case it is the doctors figure out that I have got nothing, no further useful life to lead, then a plug should be pulled and let me be done with it. I do not know whether that has become legal now in India or what is the situation. I have really no clue. But I have at least written it out and given it to whoever is my near and dear.
Sometimes also become the family decision. So, and
Yeah, it does.
the family then, I just was very closely involved in a case like that where the person was almost very vegetative, but the family felt that not, letting them pass off on their own would mean some kind of a dereliction of duty on their part. So, or trying to save some expenses on their part. So they continued, and the doctor advised actually that you're not prolonging life, you're prolonging suffering. But
Suffering.
the family held on to the last bit of hope that was there. So it's a very, it's
Very
not a
difficult decision.
dilemma. Yeah, very
But
difficult to see.
is it now legal? Can I
No, I
legally
don't think it is
specify?
legal in India. I don't
Is
think
it
it's
legal
legal in
or
India.
not,
It's
sir?
legal in many other countries.
It's legal
But
in
it's still
Canada,
not.
but not legal in India. Yeah.
Oh, what a pity.
I just wanted to tell two anecdotes about 8, 9 years back when I used to go to US very regularly. So I went US, I came back. My daughter is in Bombay, so I stopped for a week or 10 days there. There were two news items which caught my eye. One is KL Raheja died of the Rajaheja construction. The Raheja patriarch died. And his eldest son refused to come and cremate him, do the last rites, because of property dispute with his father. The second was Hiranandani, another big builder in Bombay. He was 70 plus years old. He sued his daughter that she should not use the Hiranandani name for her business. When I saw that, Raheja son refusing to do last rites to him and the father suing the daughter not to use their name, I realized how stupid people who are collecting property and money and not relationship. So elderly care is all about relationship. It's not medical care, etc. Because at my age or this thing, we are ready to pop off. We have lived a full life. But we would like to be active till the last moment to the extent physically possible and be useful to others. I think this is a thing which you should take home. One is to seek help as old people. Second is to give help even if we are old. Thank you.
Ipsita, the beautiful manner in which you have covered the whole spectrum of human growth from care receiver to caregiver to then again to care receiver, it's excellent. And you have covered the scene not only in the country, but also in many countries. My congratulations to you for a very beautiful, very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you very much.
We can conclude. Thank you so very much, Ipsita, for taking the time out to talk to the Jamalpur Alumni Association. It's been a wonderful talk, and it has brought about a lot of soul searching and a lot of thinking on where and how we go forward in this world, right from being caregivers to caretakers. Thank you so very much. Thank you, Ipsita.
My pleasure and an absolute honor, sir. Thank you so much.